Yes, now I'm Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! It is time to continue my discussion on the anime series, where I review them for you, and then I let you know some suggestions on how you can use them in your Big Eyes Small Mouth games, your BESM games. It is always important to note you can use these in other role-playing game systems too. The suggestions only work for a lot of the setting. The mechanics, that'll be up to you to adapt them, but if you want to, you can use them in them too. So, I have two more going back in time. We're in fall of 2014, and then I have two more suggestions from you. But let's start with the two from 2014, Akatsuki no Yona, and of course, Hitsugi no Chaika. Let's start with Akatsuki no Yona. Our story focuses on, of course, Yona. She is the princess of the kingdom of Koka, and she's under the protection of her father, the king. She also has been looked after by her sort of childhood friend and bodyguard, Sonwan. What happens is that her love interest, another one of her childhood friends, Suwan, shows up and in the night kills her father and basically stages a coup d'etat. She is driven from the castle and presumed dead, but her and her bodyguards survive, and the two of them then pledge to effectively do something to save this kingdom. They see some of the troubles there, and so she begins this journey to seek out these four legendary dragons, which are said to have been part of the force that founded the kingdom itself, and use their abilities to save the kingdom. But not just from this force of the coup d'etat, but from the forces within the kingdom itself, from that which may be breaking it apart, from the external threats that exist there. And her journey takes her to places that it didn't originally aim for, but we do find it there. Now, for the genres within, it's in action. We have great battle scenes. We have great fighters and warriors in amongst them. Yona herself becomes a skilled archer along the way in order to do something to continue the fight. Her father proclaimed peace, but this peace was not always the best idea. And now she must pick up basically the weapon in order to reaffirm that there should be some kind of peace here, though it cannot be gained through just words alone. It's also a fantasy. These dragon characters, as they find them, have mysterious powers. They are reincarnations of ancient dragons, with a bloodline passed down and down throughout the ages of these powers deep within them. It's also, of course, a romance. We see that she does have this relationship with both of her childhood friends that sort of develops, about the one that effectively killed her father, but he did it for reasons for saving the kingdom. So he isn't necessarily a bad guy, but he took on the role of the bad guy. And he did it in a way which maybe not the right way to do it. He made a decision that was a violent one in order to protect the kingdom. We also see, of course, that she does have that relationship with her other childhood friend as they travel together and bond. Now I rate this one a 5. It's actually was one of my favorites at the time, and I do love the manga a lot, and I try to read as much of it as I can get it. So it's definitely one I highly recommend. Now, if you're using this BESM game, I recommend 350 points. You're going to make your characters dragons. They're going to be accompanying your Yona, or effectively a character that will take the place of Yona, as they journey around the kingdom and effectively try to change the kingdom, try to improve it, try to keep it together as one, but also perhaps defeat some of the enemies that are out there. Both the enemies from within the kingdom, which might be other threats trying to break it apart, external threats that are going on that perhaps they will get involved in, which maybe military action isn't the greatest answer for, that they are trying to prevent all-out war. And of course, maybe even to oppose the coup d'etat, those that killed the king and took it over, and perhaps eventually return Yona to the throne if she really wants it. But we can see that in the anime, she's sort of not necessarily wanting to do that, because she can do more when she's not there. So perhaps that's what the journey is all for. To fix and save this kingdom, because the power doesn't matter. It matters that this kingdom and its people are saved. Now let's move on and talk about Hitsugi no Chaika, or Chaika the Coffin Princess. 5 years ago, a 300-year war with the Empire of Gaz was ended with the death of the Emperor of Gaz by the 8 heroes. Now we focus on today with Toro, a saboteur, a person who had powers from during the war and was given abilities, who cannot settle down with the kind of skills he has. He runs into Chaika, a mysterious white-haired wizard girl who's dragging around a coffin. He learns that she is the daughter of Emperor Gaz and seeks to reclaim all his body parts, broken apart by the 8 heroes, and give them a proper burial. He with his sister, both saboteurs, begin to accompany her on this journey to bury Gaz. Along the way, they have to deal with the 8 heroes and what's become of them, plus deal with forces opposing their journey in the first place, and other forces that are remnants of the Empire of Gaz, that perhaps want to use this opportunity for something a little more sinister. Now, this is, of course, an action. There's awesome battle scenes. Chaika is an excellent wizard. The Toru and his sister are excellent saboteurs that have incredible powers getting into combat scene. It's a fantasy. There is magic powers, abilities. The power of a saboteur basically makes them almost berserkers, gives them this extra abilities to combat. So you can see there's this huge level of fantasy there with monsters and beings. It's also a comedy. Very funny and silly things happen, and Chaika is almost a little childish in the way she acts and very pushy in what she wants to get done. And so there's very little comedic moments that happen in the course of the series that are quite entertaining. Now, I rate this one a 4. It's a pretty good one, but again, I do say it's not a perfect one, so that's why it just didn't perfectly pull me in. But it was a really great one, and I do recommend. Now, if you're using this BESM game, I recommend 300 points. You're going to make your group of characters basically accompaniment to a coffin princess. They'll be going along the journey and probably, I would say, going for the burial of Gaz route, basically trying to gather up his pieces to lay him to rest. Now, along the way, they will, of course, deal with the 8 heroes. They may deal with pursuers, any kind of remnants of the Empire of Gaz, and the plans that they have. They also, of course, might deal with other coffin princesses out there, and the legacy of what really Chaika is, what really the coffin princesses are, and this strange mission that's been put ahead of them in this new world order, and overcoming that to do the right thing in a way, rather than do what almost they were created to do in a way, pushed to do. Now let's move on, and I can talk about the 2 suggestions that you gave me, Mouse and, of course, Rozen Maiden. But let's start, of course, with Mouse. So Mouse, we focus on 400 years ago. There's this legacy of this powerful group of thieves, which have been known to steal things, impossible to steal things, and oftentimes things that were stolen in the first place themselves, money and property. This legacy, these powerful thieves, were known as Mouse. Now in modern day, we focus on the latest person to gain the title of Mouse, a college art teacher named Muon. Now, he, as the latest version of Mouse, is accompanied by 3 luscious assistants who help him out to steal the various treasures, buildings, crazy things, go on almost impossible jobs of things to steal that no one could steal before. All with knowing that they have this reputation that those that will assist Mouse will not be left behind, even if the Mouse would be caught. Now the genres for this one are, of course, an adventure. They go to interesting places, travel there, go to steal things, of course, but it covers a lot of travel and adventure with it. It's also a harem. He has a relationship in a way with all of his assistants because they are luscious assistants. So it is sort of like a harem there, definitely. Of course, it is Phantom Thief, because it does have that nature of he is the Phantom Thief. A very good example of it, not the prime example of it, but definitely a great example of one. Now I rate this one a 4. It's definitely a very interesting one, a very entertaining one, and even the harem elements were not so much for me personally with everything else that's going on. And I do have a sort of thing. I do really enjoy the Phantom Thief / detective genres, especially when the 2 of them are against it. That always wins me over no matter what, traditionally. Now, if you're using this in a BESM game, I would recommend 200 points. You're going to make your team of characters, those that have taken on the title of Mouse. Now, one in particular is probably going to be the main person with the title of Mouse, and the rest are going to be assistants, as they go to various places and enact various heists to steal things which are more impossible to steal. Most of the time, things that have already been stolen themselves. But regardless, it will be to do the impossible with the very crimes, while all along the way developing their unity and camaraderie, developing the relationships within them, deepening those bonds, and always remembering that montage, the idealism that they will never leave one of theirs behind, that they will always go and leave this place together, being successful, no matter what it takes and no matter who might get caught in order to rescue this person in the end. Now let's talk about Rozen Maiden. So Rozen Maiden, we look to a 20th century doll maker known as Rozen, who created 7 special dolls with unique abilities and sentience thanks to special gems that he used. These 7 dolls he sent out into the world to various doll makers and gave them the instructions of this. Once they have found their doll master, then they must battle the other dolls, and gather up their gems. The one that has all 7 gems will become known as the Alice in this event known as the Alice's Game, and then be able to once again be reunited with Rozen. We focus on June, a middle school student who becomes the master to one of these dolls. And it turns out this doll doesn't want to participate in Alice's Game the same way. She wants to basically have everyone win the game together and all of her sisters be there peacefully together. She just wants it to resolve and end the Alice Game peacefully. Now, for the genres for this one, it's a comedy drama. There's funny things as, to try to break the tension when very dramatic things are happening, because there is definitely a level of drama to this. Because gems are lost and retaken and regained in dark matters, that it's sort of like, it's almost death to lose the gem for these dolls. And so when one is gone, it is a very sad event. So there are a lot of dark things kind of almost going on with these events here. It's a supernatural. They're sentient dolls with mysterious abilities thanks to these gems that are deep within them. It's also, to a degree, a fantasy because it has mystical abilities, powers to them, almost a magic about it. So it is this combination of a supernatural fantasy. Now, I rate this one a 3 just because it was not actually my favorite. I didn't watch nearly as much of the anime as I did read the manga. I read more of the manga, I do have to say. And again, it just wasn't my favorite out of all of them. Just something didn't draw me in as much. But it is a really good one, so I can recommend it. Now, if you're using the BESM game, I would recommend 350 points. You're going to make your characters doll masters. In a way, you're also going to be designing the doll that you're going to be using, because what they're going to be doing is they're going to be a team of dolls that are working together for peace. They're going to be opposing those that are trying to basically take over them, basically kill them in a way, claim all the gems, and return to Rozen himself. And each one of these sort of almost enemies will have their own plans, maybe minions, things that they're going about that will cause you to almost try to defeat them in ways that are roundabout, because they are a united team against those that are more individuals. They will use whatever means necessary to try to defeat them in very dark ways, and it makes it that you can have entire arcs about each of these. Depending on how many players you have, this might be 3 or 4 arcs, maybe even 5 if you only have 2 players, that allows you to then, therefore, eventually reach that end where perhaps you can finally unite them all together in peace, rather than battle, and have all the sisters together, basically, as themselves. But that's it for today. I introduced you to 4 more anime series. I, of course, after reviewing them, let you know how you could use them in your BESM games. Gave you some suggestions, and this information, the basic setting that you could have, translates well into many different role-playing game systems. It's up to you to make sure that the actual physical system matches. You might have to adapt a few rules here and there to make it make sense, especially with character creation. But generally speaking, you could easily adapt these to many different game systems, many different worlds. Whatever role-playing game system you like, you could bring it into. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's just for the channel, the empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you could always check out my Patreon. Link description below. There's some great rewards there. It helps to grow and improve the channel. But regardless, until the next time, I bid